season is already winding down, and there are playoff scenarios ever present. Everybody's trying to make their predictions and their guesses of who will play who as seeding kind of gets settled in. Guess what is the most predicted playoff matchup?
The Dallas Cowboys and somebody.
The Dallas Cowboys, yes, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, really?
Yes, 41% likely that those two will face off in the playoffs. What do you make of that?
Tampa Bay is in good shape, relatively speaking, in the NFC West. And the reason, in part, is because Atlanta just can't quite get over the hump.
Yeah.
The Falcons, once again, they lose in Week 13. They do it because they can't score. And I'm not suggesting that all the blame goes on Marcus Mariota. That's not fair. I'm suggesting that when Coach Arthur Smith, week after week, says it's comical that we would even think of such a change, it's not comical. There's nothing funny about it.
Right.
The Cowboys, I'm sure, would like another crack at it.
Yeah.
And I think the Cowboys probably think they're a better team than the Buccaneers, although they need to do some things, tonight and elsewhere as we get through the season to kind of establish that. When you say winding down, it's winding down, it's winding up.
Yeah, it's getting exciting.
What's happening in the NFC East is fascinating.
To the NFC least, to the NFC best?
Well, yeah, it's not the least anymore, is it? Jimmy Johnson comes out to open up Week 13 and says the Cowboys aren't going to catch the Eagles, which seems right to me, even though they play on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the Cowboys can't be a Super Bowl team, and he thinks they can.
Right.
And I think that's right on the money. The Eagles are not a fluke anymore. There's no, they're just assembling a team of superstar guys that don't connect. That's just not true. They've assembled a really good roster, and it's a really good team, and the Cowboys will be giving them chase. In the meantime, the Cowboys need to make sure they take care of the business at hand. Things like the Colts, take care of that. Things like Odell Beckham Jr., make sure you compartmentalize. That's a word we use a lot around here. Odell Beckham Jr. is a thing over there.
Yeah.
And handle each of these things in their own way, and then you'll get your chance at the Eagles on Christmas Eve, but maybe bigger than that, maybe in the playoffs.
Right.
Although I know you're going Bucks in the playoffs. I'm saying at some point Cowboys and Eagles might clash in the playoffs, and wouldn't that be fun?
Wow, that would be so fun. Let's continue to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, because whenever you put the Cowboys and the Super Bowl in the same sentence together, people are going to pay attention. So in your opinion, what would the Cowboys need to do in order to reach the Super Bowl and then, win it?
We've kind of gotten so caught up in it's this group or it's that group, but now start to look at the numbers since the return of Dak Prescott.
Yeah, true.
This is now this is an opinion on defense. I think this is the number one playmaking defense in football. If you look at sacks and then you look at their ability to make takeaways individually, and then just the big playmaking at every level. Tank, Micah, Diggs, and then there's another level of guy, Armstrong. Leighton Vander Esch is way underappreciated around here. Here comes the rookie, Damone Clark, friend of the show, and all of a sudden he's on the verge of being that guy. Curse as a safety is that guy. Hooker's got that in his history. But then at the same time, the Dak Prescott offense over the course of the last month or so is the number one offense in football.
Right.
So do they have the best defense in football? No. Do they have the best playmaking defense in football? Maybe. Do they have the best offense in football? Maybe.
Right.
That formula is pretty good. That is a Super Bowl caliber formula.
And to start the season, the Buffalo Bills were the Super Bowl favorite. Josh Allen was the MVP favorite. Now that we're winding down on the season, or ramping up on the season, who do you consider to be the MVP top candidate?
When every week that you think you have the thing pinned down, you go, oh boy, Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions in the red zone, or oh boy, it's too bad Patrick Mahomes only has one weapon to throw to in Kansas City. I think Micah Parsons in Dallas is going to get votes.
Interesting.
And I think Josh Allen will eventually hit the accelerator. But don't ignore some of the things that the Cowboys are doing just in general, and then match it with their schedule. Colts, Texans, who are abysmal. The Houston Texans in Week 13 had Deshaun Watson come to town. Nobody showed up for the game. Some of the fans booed, but some of them want his autograph, and to each his own. That's entirely up to you. He was terrible, and yet somehow the Texans were even more terrible than he was. That Browns team, had been holding on, hoping that they could be good enough without him. And they really haven't been. Now they have him, and they still didn't look very good. If they play anybody but the Texans today, if the Cleveland Browns in Week 13 play anybody but Houston Texans, Cleveland loses. Only because they are playing the worst team that I've seen in a while covering the NFL in the Texans. And is that an indictment of ownership? Yes, because they helped goof this up. Is it an indictment of Lovie Smith? Listen, Lovie Smith can be a beloved character and all the rest.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel, it doesn't feel like he has a grip, especially offensively, on what needs to happen around here. And their defense is terrible as well.
Yeah.
They did make a couple plays today, but not good enough. And then General Manager Nick, his comment the other day about, well, you know, you should really just be thankful for Thanksgiving. Be thankful for the holidays.
Yeah.
Houston Texas fans don't need that lecture.
Right.
We'll worry about the holidays. You try to win a football game. And Houston's not very capable of winning a football game.
I think if you're a Texans fan, you're glad that the Deshaun Watson debut is over with, right? You're like, okay, it's finally done, and now you can look ahead to the NFL draft.
Yeah, because you're apparently, if you're in Houston, you're not looking forward to coming to the next game.
Right.
By the way, next game for Houston is in Dallas.
Yeah.
This place will be packed.
Right.
And maybe some Texans fans will find their way in here, but they certainly didn't find their way in there.
Right.
And again, though, we do this a lot because we are trying to take a big picture look at Cowboys and the NFL and all the rest. But you lose focus on Jonathan Taylor, the Colts running back, who the Cowboys spent a lot of special time with this week. McCarthy said this to us, and in whatever, almost 3 years, I've never heard him say that the running back we play this week is causing us to practice especially for him.
Right? That is interesting.
I mean, they name them all, they play them all.
Yep.
And he's that special. Now, maybe part of it is because he's that special compared to almost everybody else on their roster. Pittman, the receiver's okay. Matt Ryan doesn't seem like he has much gas left in his tank or his arm. And so a Cowboys focus on Jonathan Taylor in Week 13 makes a lot of sense to me.
We spoke a little bit about MVP favorites, Super Bowl favorites, and the Los Angeles Rams were one of those teams entering the season. Hard to believe now. Matthew Stafford on injured reserve. Have you ever seen a reigning Super Bowl team fall so hard from grace?
And some of it is bad luck.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald's hurt, Kupp is hurt,
Yep.
Stafford's hurt. And of course, the Cowboys got a chance to see that team, and when the Cowboys played that team, it was two very hopeful clubs, and now the Rams are about out of hope. Aaron Donald says, I want to come back in a couple weeks. I don't know that there's much of a reason to bother. There's not much reason to bother on Matthew Stafford either. You know, he came into the season dinged up, arm-wise, shoulder-wise, whatever.
Right.
And of course, now there's also speculation that maybe Sean McVay, who's devoted a lot to this cause and has taken that team to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years, that he might start listening to those offers to go be in broadcasting. And so the Rams experience is really a lesson to everybody else, Dallas Cowboy fans and the rest. Cowboy fans, and I say this with so much affection, you're so spoiled. You think it's your birthright to be in the Super Bowl.
Right.
And the fact is that the Rams and the Buccaneers and the Bills,
They had to give up a lot for it.
and they all have the same rights and desires that you have. So if this is a fantastic run, whether it's for the Cowboys or the Bills or whoever, enjoy this run, because the Rams are staring you in the face now, explaining to you, showing you how quickly it can go away.
Right. What is one bold prediction you may have?
I don't think that the Giants or the Commanders are good.
Ooh, so you would want to face them in the playoffs?
I absolutely would.
Okay, I see.
In the case of the Giants, that is still a one-man show with Saquon Barkley to a great degree. In the case of the Commanders, I just don't think Taylor Heineke, the folk hero, I trust pedigree.
Yeah.
And he's an interesting player, and he's an exciting player, and he's entertaining. And what he did in Week 13, the 2 touchdown passes, that made a difference.
Plus, they've got Brian Robinson, who's fun to watch.
And so there's a lot of fun going on there, and they're another team that if they could just, but the hump to get over is a big hump. They're not going to get over the Cowboy hump, and they're not going to get over the Eagle hump.